Thank you, Steve. Okay, welcome everyone to the I-95 and SR 896 interchange project. This is the public information meeting. My name is Barry Benton, and we're going to present to you an informative presentation here. It should take around 25 minutes, and then we're going to have a question and answer afterward. So some ways that you can participate in the workshop. These slides were on the loop when you first came in, but you should be able to listen in directly on your computer. If you're having any trouble with your audio, you can also listen in through a phone call. The phone number to call is 301-715-8592. You would use the webinar ID 874-8858-9415. And also the passcode would be 215361. So all attendees, whether on the phone or using computer speakers, will be in listen-only mode in this session. So if you have any questions, we're going to go into how to make those. So you won't be able to voice yourself here, but you can certainly participate through a question and answer session. During the session, please type all questions and comments in the Q&A box, which is on the bottom bar at the bottom of your screen. If you move your mouse to the bottom of the screen, the bar will appear. You can see as is shown here below. At that point, you'll have a pop-up, and you just simply type your question or comment into the question and answer dialog box. We have a panel here that will be available to answer all of these questions. If you're having a hard time with the Q&A function, you can also email questions directly to info@95896interchange.com at any time during the workshop session. You don't have to wait to the end. Each question is going to be reviewed by myself, and the panelists will respond verbally to the questions that are chosen. Specific questions may be answered directly within the Q&A function. Others we will answer verbally. We'll make sure we get an answer to everyone. If we can't answer your question today, we'll come back and follow up with you later. So some introductions. First of all, as I said, my name is Barry Benton. I'm with GPI. I'm the bridge design lead for the project. We have two presenters for the project. The first presenter is Brianna Kovach. She is with DelDOT. She's the group engineer from Project Development North, and she is going to talk first. And then we're going to have Steven Pinoza from Century Engineering. He's the design project manager. Other panelists that we have on here to help answer any questions. We have Matt Vincent. He's the DelDOT Chief of Project Development North. Mark Buckaloo, the DelDOT Chief of Construction and Materials. John Ledger, the DelDOT Group 2 Construction Engineer. Evan Brodsky, the DelDOT Group 2 Area Engineer. C.R. McLeod, who's the DelDOT Director of Community Relations. Robin Bryson, who is the DelDOT with DelDOT Community Relations. Natalie Barnhart, AECOM Community Relations. Kate Ford, the Century Engineering Highway Design Lead. And Brandon Zarilla with Wagman. He's the contract project manager. Wagman is the contractor who won this under low bid. The agenda for tonight is first, we're going to go through the project background. Then we're going to talk about the proposed improvements, give you an idea of what to expect during early stage construction, and then finally the question and answer period. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brianna, and Brianna is going to give you some information on the project background.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Barry. And as Barry mentioned, we first like to start off by explaining a little bit about the background of the project and as to the why we're doing this. So I'm sure you're all very familiar with this area, this location. The project is located in Newark, Delaware. The limits extend along 95 from the 95 toll plaza into Maryland to approximately a mile east of the interchange area. And along 896, the work extends from Glasgow High School from the south up to the north to Welsh Track Road. And this is just a photo of the existing interchange as it is today, just to give you, again, some perspective of where exactly we're going to be working at versus just the plan view that you saw on the previous slide. So why are we doing this project? This slide may seem like it's very busy and has a lot going on, but that's because we have several issues at the existing interchange, including geometric, operational, and safety concerns. So I'm going to walk through these issues by each quadrant, starting in the northeast quadrant. The southbound 95 off-ramp to northbound 896 had a very short merge area on the northbound 896 when we started this project. That small merge area had a pattern of crash clusters in it. We'll get to it in a little bit, but this actually has since been remedied with a short-term project that we were able to implement in the interim prior to this bigger construction contract going out. In the southeast quadrant, the northbound 896 ramp to northbound 95 experiences crash clusters as well. This is because the geometry here has a straight section of 896 as you're traveling northbound, leading downhill vertically into a fairly sharp curve. This causes difficulties for folks to maneuver, particularly large trucks. Moving then to the southwest quadrant adjacent to Iron Hill Park, and then also similar, the northeast quadrant, they actually have similar issues with the ramps here. You'll notice as you enter the ramp, there is a curved section followed by a straight section. Both of these ramps used to be tolled. Once the tolls were removed, what we see is that folks are exiting that first curve, gain some speed in that straight section, and then when they approach that second curve, they find it difficult to maneuver. So again, we see those crash clusters here as well. But the biggest movement that really drove the proposed design of the reconstruction of this interchange is that weave movement on southbound 896 bridge over 95. The folks who are traveling southbound on 896 going on to northbound 95 are weaving with the drivers exiting 95 southbound headed to 896 southbound. Both of these are very heavy volumes of traffic, causing crashes associated with the weaving. In addition, this creates operational issues. The traffic weaving slows drivers down, which creates backups along the 95 exit ramp and onto mainline 95. Well, this now creates new issue because you have that high-speed traffic traveling on 95 southbound who are now significantly slowed down or stopped in the rightmost lane trying to exit. And what some folks might not realize is that nearly 2/3 of the traffic traveling along southbound 95 are trying to exit on 896. So we see a pattern of rear end crashes along the main line, as well as side swipes with folks who are trying to weave into that backed up queue to get a little bit closer. So that last slide was a lot of information. And to summarize, the purpose of this project is to improve the safety and traffic operations of the I-95 and SR 896 interchange in order to maintain mobility for local and through traffic while not adversely affecting the operational performance of the I-95 Newark Toll Plaza. Our focus is to improve the level of service or operations of the 95 traffic affected by the merging and diverging traffic. Another big focus is to decrease the number, frequency, and severity of crashes here. Between January of 2019 to December of 2021, there were 746 crashes, including 1 fatality. This equates to approximately 2 crashes every 3 days. I'm now going to turn it over to Steve Pinoza to talk through the proposed improvements to show what we're going to do to try to remedy these issues and what to expect during the upcoming construction.
Thanks, Brianna. So first I'm going to talk about some improvements that we've already done, which we did as an interim to the interchange project. So along northbound 995, which used to be a 4-lane section through the interchange, we maintained 3 northbound through lanes through for northbound 95 through the interchange, and then our outside right lane became an exit-only lane for the exit to 896. So what that allowed us to do on the other side of the interchange, on the north side, was again maintain those 3 northbound through lanes on northbound 95, but now we can bring a very heavy ramp movement of northbound 896 to I-95 northbound, and we're going to bring that lane on as a dedicated lane. So now that traffic doesn't have to merge in as it did previously. We did a very similar project on northbound 896. Here we carried a single lane on northbound 896 into Newark, and then we made the outside lane become an exit-only lane for northbound 896 to I-95 northbound. What that allowed us to do on the Newark side of the interchange is maintain that single lane coming through north on 896 into Newark, but now the way it's striped today, the outside lane is dedicated for the southbound I-95 to northbound 896 ramp movement. So if you remember before, there was a very short acceleration lane for traffic merging onto 896, and this eliminated that issue. But the interim improvement projects didn't solve the main problem at the interchange that Brianna was discussing. The accidents are still very high at the interchange, so a full reconfiguration of the interchange is required. So this slide goes over some of the main points of the project. So we're going to be constructing 6 new bridges, 10 mechanically stabilized earth retaining walls or MSE walls. We'll be widening I-95 both northbound and southbound for approximately a mile, and that'll be for the ramp acceleration deceleration lanes for the new flyover ramps. We'll be doing rehabilitation of 6 mainline I-95 bridges while we're out there. That includes widening of 4 of those existing bridges for those new ramp accel and decel lanes. We'll also be doing some rehabilitation work to the 4 mainline 896 bridges within the project limits. There will be demolition of 1 bridge, which is the current ramp for southbound 896 to get to southbound I-95. That ramp's being reconfigured, so that bridge is no longer needed. And then we're also going to be creating a new separated shared use path connection over 95 that I'll talk about a little more detail. So safety improvements that'll come with our new interchange configuration. The biggest is separation of those ramp movements that Brianna was discussing. We're going to eliminate that weave condition on SR 896 where 896 crosses 95. We're going to be doing the I-95 widening, which is going to provide longer acceleration lengths for merging traffic. There'll be enhanced roadway lighting, some new high mast lighting throughout the entire interchange area. We're also going to be implementing a high friction surface treatment on some of our curved ramps. And this is basically a pavement overlay that provides extra friction and curves. And then again, the shared use path. The shared use path will be a separated path from vehicle traffic through the interchange with a concrete barrier. So this is our proposed interchange back when we were doing our alternatives phase that was called the double flyover. So just to orient you here, pink are our new bridges. So that's our 6 new bridges. And then I'm going to go through the 4 main movements. So coming southbound on I-95 to go northbound on 896 into the city of Newark, that movement's going to be very similar. The ramp will be reconfigured, but the movement is the same as it is today. But coming southbound on 95 to go southbound on 896, you're now going to take our new flyover ramp. So the flyover ramp goes up over 896, over I-95, up onto Iron Hill, and then merges with southbound 896 traffic. Coming out of the city of Newark, coming southbound on 896 to go northbound on 95 will be our other new flyover ramp. This ramp goes over the Christina River, over I-95, up on Iron Hill, over 896, and then merges with northbound traffic. So you can see we took that merging traffic that was on the bridge of 896, and now we've separated those movements with 2 flyover ramps. And then the last major movement of the interchange, northbound 896 and northbound 95, that ramp will be reconfigured, but it's essentially the same movement as it is today. This 3D rendering shows a nice view of the proposed flyovers, gets a little better view than you can see in a 2D version. One of the things I wanted to highlight again is our shared use path that I've mentioned. So the shared use path is going to create a connection over I-95 between the city of Newark and the residential areas of south of Old Baltimore Pike. In the rendering in the bottom right corner, you can see what I was describing, that the bike path, the multi-use trail, will be separated from the traffic with a concrete barrier. Next, I want to talk a little bit about what everybody can expect during the very early stages of construction. Just overall project schedule. We're getting ready to get started here in a couple weeks. You're going to see message boards placed out there very shortly. And then we're anticipating construction is going to be completed in the fall of 2025. So the beginning of construction, it's broken down into 2 phases. Phase 1 is a very short phase from May to June of this summer. And then when we get into phase 2A, it's a longer duration, about a year, from June of this year to summer of 2024. With this project, we do have 2 long-term detours that'll be in place. So if you're traveling northbound on I-95 to get off at 896, it's a very low volume ramp. This is going to be closed starting at the beginning of the project in May, and it's going to remain closed for the duration of the project. The detour for this is very simple. We're going to be sending traffic up to 273, turning them around and bringing them back down to the interchange to use the existing ramps to go north or south on 896. A little further into the project, the ramp on the other side, so this would be your 896 ramps to get on southbound I-95. Those are going to be closing in the summer of 2024 to the spring of 2025. And the detours for this are very similar, using the 273 interchange as well as the old Chestnut Hill Road turnaround. We could also expect some additional overnight detours on I-95, 896, 72, as well as the various ramps. There'll also be shoulder and lane closures on I-95, 896, and 72. During phase 2A, northbound and southbound I-95 traffic is going to be shifted to the median shoulder, but we will be maintaining full capacity of I-95 during the day. Southbound I-95, this configuration will be in place for about a year from this summer to the next summer of 2024. Northbound I-95 will be put in this configuration same time as southbound in the summer of 23, but that's going to go a little bit longer to the end of 2024. And then probably the biggest impact to traffic, especially local traffic, is we're going to have to take SR 72 down to 1 lane in each direction from starting this summer to next summer, so for about a year long. The best place for everybody to get updated information on the project is to go to the website, 95896improvements.com. There's also available there, you can sign up to get email and text alerts to follow along with construction and get alerts when different closures are coming in place. So now I'm going to walk you through the 2 first phases of the project. So first, let me review the legend. What you see in the light yellow, that's our basic work area where the contractor will be working. Orange is what's actively being constructed as far as roadways. The gray is the existing roadways, which are open. And then what's shaded in red is what's closed as part of a detour. And then as we get to the next slide, you'll see areas in green that are completed and opened. So as I said, phase 1 is a very short duration phase. It's really setting up for phase 2A, which is the big phase for the project. So this is going to be May to June of this year. So the first thing we're going to be doing is installing some temporary drainage. This is going to require nighttime ramp closures. We're going to be building a temporary ramp. So your I-95 southbound to 896 northbound. The existing ramp will remain open during phase 1, and we'll be building this temporary ramp to allow us to do work where the existing ramp is today. We'll also be doing some widening of the ramp 896 northbound to I-95 northbound. And again, that's to set up for the next phase of the project. And then we'll also be doing some widening of 896 in the median for a traffic shift during the next phase. And as I said earlier, the I-95 northbound to 896 ramp will be closed during this first phase, and that will be for the duration of the project. During phase 1, we'll also have some overnight detours for northbound 896, full closures of 72 for some night work, as well as the ramps that we talked about for the temporary drainage. Phase 2A will start June this year and run till next summer. As I said, this is a big phase of the project. You can see everything in orange. The job really opens up in phase 2A. We will be widening I-95 northbound and southbound for our new flyover ramp tie-ins. We'll be widening the existing bridges of I-95 over SR 72. And then we also need to widen the I-95 bridge over the Norfolk Southern Railroad. We'll be constructing our 2 new bridges over the Christina River. These are for our new flyover ramps. Building the southbound 95 to 896 flyer ramps in that quadrant. You can also see in this quadrant the green. So traffic is now on the new temporary ramp from 95 southbound to 896 northbound, so we can work in the area where that ramp was previously. We'll also be building part of the 896 southbound I-95 northbound flyover. This is a new bridge over the Christina River. We'll be constructing both flyover ramps in the Iron Hill area of the interchange. Building the new bridge for the flyover ramp to come out of Newark, 896 southbound, I-95 northbound. And then we'll be widening southbound 896 all the way down to the entrance to Glasgow High School. During this phase, there will be multiple overnight detours. We'll be doing a full closure of 896, again, full closures of 72. There'll be northbound I-95 closures, southbound I-95 closures, and ramps. And again, just to emphasize, all of these detours are overnight. So during phase 2A, I discussed earlier the traffic shift. So coming southbound, we're going to be shifting traffic to the median. Like I said, we'll be maintaining the 4 lanes that exist today. And then for northbound 95, we will also be shifting to the median and maintaining the 3 travel lanes that exist now because of the interim project that we did. Here's a quick cross section that just shows, give you a better idea of what southbound will look like. So traffic will be on the existing shoulder. There'll be a concrete barrier separating traffic from our work zone on the outside. This picture is from the video that's available on the website. I would encourage everyone to go. There's 2 really good videos, one that describes the project in detail, and then another that goes through what to expect during the beginning phases of construction. So this picture here shows, again, work zone on the outside, and then the I-95 traffic shifted to the median shoulder, and just emphasizing again, we're maintaining all of our travel lanes through here. On 72, through the work zone, traveling northbound, you reduce to 1 lane, going through the work zone, then returns to 2 lanes once we get outside of our work zone. And then coming southbound, again, we'll be reducing southbound 72 to 1 lane. That lane will be shifted to the north side of 72, traveling through the work zone, and then returning to 2 lanes once we get through the work zone. There's also an existing shared use path that goes along 72 underneath the I-95 bridges, and that path will be maintained through the work zone. And again, this is another picture that I took from the video that's available on the website. This is just another graphic showing you the 72 looking north, showing the traffic down to 1 lane, shifted to the north side of 72, and then the south side of 72 becomes our work zone. So with that, I'll turn it back to Barry for our question and answer session.
Thank you very much, Steve and Brianna. Great job. And I see that we've got a number of questions that are already coming in. So we're going to go ahead and take these in the order they're received. If you still have questions, feel free to continue to add them in there. Okay. So our first question that we have is, have you considered adding a light at the I-95 northbound exit ramp, especially for those wanting to turn left on the 896 northbound? Steve Pinoza, that one's going to go to you.
So with the reconfiguration of the interchange, and as Brianna had shown that weaving condition that we had, with the flyover ramp coming southbound 95 to southbound 896, we're actually reducing the traffic that is on southbound 896 to make that left. So making that left from northbound 95 to northbound 896 will actually be less traffic. And then the other factor there is that it will be in 1 lane. So you're only going to have to cross 1 lane to then merge in with northbound 95. So the traffic will be less there than it is today.
Thank you, Steve. Second question we have, how safe will the left turn on the north 896 be exiting from 95 north? Seems like you might have answered that a little bit, but Steve will have you reiterate that.
Yeah, as I said, the traffic volumes are going to be less through there because we're taking that high volume southbound 95 to southbound 896 traffic, and we're rerouting them on the flyover ramp, and they're gonna be merging back with 896 to the south of where that crossing is. When we did the traffic analysis, we always look to see what warrants it required, and that intersection doesn't warrant a traffic signal today, and it does not in the future projections for the interchange as well.
Okay, the next one, I might need a volunteer from the panel after I read it. But for residents living on Old Baltimore Pike, they have the following issue: the ability to enter OBP from a residence driveway. Are there any plans that will control traffic east and west that will allow residents to enter OBP? With this project, there will be no controls from traffic exiting 95 to 896 for Old Baltimore Pike westbound. Do I have any volunteers?
So Barry, I can try to take this one, I think. I don't know if the intent is questions more so like if there's signals or anything that are going to be added along Old Baltimore Pike in the east or west direction. With this contract, there is not. That being said, I don't know if there's trying to discern from the question if there's concern about the signal at Old Baltimore Pike and 896 during the contract. Just wanted to let folks know, and this is in general for a lot of the surrounding areas, the surrounding side streets. We do have a traffic monitoring plan and a team who is going to be out here monitoring the traffic impacts during construction and making signal timing adjustments as needed throughout the duration of construction as well. So I don't know if that quite answers the question. I kind of took it in two different directions there, but
yeah, I think that that would be how I would interpret it as well, Brianna. Lloyd, if we missed the intent of the question, you can follow up with a second question, and we'll do our best to answer that. The next question, where is the shared use pathway? I couldn't discern it on the slide. So Steve, I wonder if you could bring that slide back up and maybe re-show it.
Yep, I can bring it right up. All right, so you guys can see it there. So the pink highlighted is the shared use path. So it will be along southbound 896. It'll start at the intersection of Wells Track Road because that's our project limits. So it'll go in front of there, in front of the roadway in, and when it gets past the roadway in, it will follow the, here, use my highlighter. It will follow along our flyover ramp, and as I said, separated from traffic. So it continues up onto Iron Hill, and then it separates from the ramp, heads on its own down, and then it goes along southbound 896 down to Old Baltimore Pike and connects in with the trail system that's down there today.
Right, it'll be a much needed crossing for pedestrians and cyclists across 95. Next question. What kind of noise can we expect in phase one? When the trees were cut down, it was very loud early in the morning. Mark Buckaloo.
Good evening. Thank you, Barry. I would hate to say, but normal construction noise that you would envision in a project this size, excavating equipment, jackhammers to break up some of the existing pavement, dump trucks, of course. What would be a construction project be without backup alarms, but you would have, your normal dump truck noise, sometimes the banging of the tailgates as they're unloading material, similar to things like that in phase one.
Thank you, Mark. And Mark, with regard to that, the normal hours for construction as well, I assume.
So normal hours for construction, this project is very accelerated, so they're really going to be working around the clock on this project, probably six days, nights a week, potentially sometimes 7. This job's going to be hit very hard. The intent was to kind of get in this area and get out, given the size and scope and impacts to the community. We want to try and finish this project up as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Will these slides be available on your website, Brianna?
yeah, so this one actually, we are recording this webinar and we're hoping to get it up onto our DelDOT YouTube channel and post it onto our project website, hopefully this week. So stay tuned for that.
Great. Yeah, and the website has been highlighted by Steve Pinoza in his presentation, and we'll show you that again before we leave. Why does 72 have to be down to one lane each way? Mark Buckaloo.
Yes, it's a great question. And it's something that we're not looking forward to ourselves. Unfortunately, given the amount of work on northbound and southbound 95, the work on the 72 overpass, it's really going to be a construction access point. And given the work on the 72 overpass, we really needed to restrict traffic to allow the work to progress that's necessary for the widening of 95 in that area.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. And that answered the next question I had to there was another one about why is 72 effective. Who is expected to use the shared lane? Seems like it dumps folks out at Route 896 at 50 miles per hour. And I'm gonna let you take that one, Brianna.
Perfect. And I think, Barry, that one might have been answered a little bit with Steve's previous question too, of not really being able to discern where exactly that shared use path was.
Yeah.
So again, just to clarify, Steve mentioned that, yes, we have it along the side of Welsh, at Welsh Track Road, going along that new flyover ramp, but it is separate. And it stays separated from the southbound 896 traffic. It's off the roadway, off the shoulder. And it is connecting down at Old Baltimore Pike and then also the existing trail system. So it doesn't, from the picture, it might look like it dumps you in the shoulder, but it is not. It's off on the side.
Yeah. And yeah, that's good point. And as far as who is expected to use it, it is, just to be clear, a shared use path is for pedestrians and cyclists. It's not for other vehicles. I'm not sure if that intent was in the question as well. The interchange flow is going to be much improved. Will there be changes to the traffic lights on southbound 896 at Old Baltimore Pike, Four Seasons, and the light at Siemens? Steve.
Yes, so yeah, obviously with this new flyover ramp configuration with the traffic, we're going to be dumping traffic on 896 much quicker. So that is the reason we're carrying the third lane. We're going to be, when I say we're widening 896 to Glasgow High School, that's to add a third through lane through the Old Baltimore Pike intersection. So that's going to allow us to flush more of the traffic through. Our improvements don't carry through to the traffic signals to the south, the Four Seasons at Siemens. But that would be something that once the new ramp is open, would be looked at by DelDOT and monitored, and they could look at doing some changes, signal timing changes to that. But that was the reason we did the widening all the way down to Glasgow High School, because so much traffic comes off the interchange that you're parking them all to a light and it started to back up. So adding that third lane flushes everybody through. So we're hoping that keeps people moving.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. When will all of the fallen trees be removed from the side of the highway at the ramps? Mark Buckaloo, you are a popular guy.
Great question, and thank you. So once the contractor mobilizes into those specific quadrants of the interchange, they will start to remove all these trees to progress work in those areas.
And Mark, you just stay real close here.
Yes, sir.
There will be no non-overnight closures of 95 southbound to 896 southbound or 896 northbound to I-95 northbound.
There will be closures of 95 northbound and southbound. There'll be various closures of 896. Unfortunately, when you're setting girders across I-95, you need to close it. What I would encourage all of you to do is really sign up for the email and text alerts. We'll push all this information out when we plan on doing important closures like this through our press releases. But if you sign up for the email text alerts, we can really send you project specific information. You'll have up-to-date information. We'll send email and text alerts when we reopen critical ramps and roadways. It's really the best way we can get our communication out to all of you when we have to do these. They will be a little bit later in the project, but they will be essential in order to complete all the activities necessary.
And Mark, just to clarify, the word was non-overnight. So basically asking, will there be closures of 95 and 896 that will not be at nighttime?
No, sir. They will all occur at night. Sorry to clarify. Thank you for the clarification, Barry.
Yep. No.
Yeah, Barry, I think the question is referencing the two ramps, 95 southbound to 896 southbound,
Okay.
896 northbound, I-95 northbound, because those are the two big ramps that are moving. And that's
Okay.
correct. There will be no, those closures are only happen in the middle of the night. We're not doing those during the day.
Yes.
That would be a mess.
Thank you, Steve. Flashing signs have already begun to be installed on I-95 southbound that state congestion ahead, but are currently covered and not active. Are they a part of the project?
They're actually a part of a different project that we have ongoing. So a lot of work on 95 as always. But yes, they are part of a different project.
All right. Thank you, Mark.
Yes.
Okay, there's another question about the trees here. I see so many trees down along Iron Hill Park. Will there be any restoration? Brianna.
Yep, I can take that one, Barry. So as part of this contract, we are required to do some tree mitigation. You won't see that until the very end of the project. We're going to try to mitigate and reforest as many trees as possible within the interchange area. For the trees that we can't reforest within this interchange area, we do actually have an off-site mitigation area as well for both tree reforestation as well as wetland mitigation for the contract.
Okay. Will the mixed use path be available for use for those folks, bikes, walking and jogging heading northbound? I ask because its location appears associated with southbound traffic only. I'm concerned about safely accessing that if I would like to bike northbound. Steve.
Yeah, so it is a two-way bike shared use path because it's going to be your typical 10-foot wide path that's required for two-way traffic. When we get to Wells Track Road, there's obviously not facilities to the north of there for a bike path. So the way it is set up is if you're traveling northbound on the path, when you get to Wells Track Road, it's set up that you would, if you want to go northbound, to continue northbound, you would have to get in the queue for traffic of Wells Track Road making that left. So basically, once you get to Wells Track Road, you're going to have to ride your bike on the road because there are no facilities. And then to the south, it connects into the path that's already there. So yeah, there is a future connection that needs to be made from there to Newark, but we're doing what we can through our project limits.
Thank you, Steve. And this is a golden opportunity to get that connection across 95 now. If we're going to go stay on the shared use path, if the shared use path starts at Wells Track Road, does that cut off the roadway inn/restaurant from 896? Steve.
No, so there's a sidewalk that for a portion from Wells Track Road that travels to the south, so that's going to be widened out to the 10-foot wide trail. All the entrances will be maintained through there.
Thank you. Will there be any permanent noise barriers constructed? Brianna.
For this contract, Barry, there are not going to be any permanent noise barriers constructed. I do want to add, though, that as part of our process during design, we're required to do a noise study, which we did. So we did our noise analysis for the proposed interchange, and permanent noise barriers were not warranted here.
Thank you very much. How will residents access the walkway to Newark from Baltimore Pike? Will there be barriers to access, or can it be accessed along the path? Steve.
So there will be a new crosswalk for the shared use path across Old Baltimore Pike. So like I said, the path does continue down and connect into what is Old South College, which is the residential road. So yes, there will be a new crossing that'll be coming across Old Baltimore Pike just on southbound 896.
Yeah. Okay. The traffic from Old Baltimore Pike at 896, how will people be able to cross Old Baltimore Pike at the intersection when people are turning left on Old Baltimore Pike? I'm not sure. Try to decipher that one. Do I have any volunteers on that?
Barry, I, from the question, it sounds like, I don't think there's any changes to the traffic patterns at the intersection of Old Baltimore Pike and 896, correct? You still
That's
would have a left turn lane onto Old Baltimore Pike.
Yeah.
You
Correct.
would still be able to go left or right, onto 896 from Old Baltimore Pike. So I don't think with the widening, it doesn't seem that there would be any changes to the current turning movements at that intersection.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah, we're not changing any of the turning movements from Old Baltimore Pike on to 896.
Thank you, Natalie. Okay. During the closing of northbound 95 ramp to the northbound 896 during construction, what plans are in place to prevent traffic from exiting at Elkton Road and using Otts Chapel Road to West Chestnut Hill, Old Baltimore Pike, or Welsh Track Road? Mark Buckaloo.
Well, this individual is very well informed and very familiar with the area because that is going to be our detour route when we close northbound 95. So expect to use that ramp. And we are in contact with Maryland. They will be familiar with the work that's ongoing. We'll make them aware of everything that we're doing. So we will have communication with Maryland DOT as well.
And Mark, this next one you touched on earlier, but I'm going to give you another chance to highlight some of the notifications we have. How much notice will be given before a complete roadway shutdown?
So we will be pushing out a notice 2 weeks in advance. Sometimes drops down to 12 days in advance. A lot of times when you're trying to project work that's 2 weeks out, weather becomes a factor. So what we will try to do is kind of inform everybody, hey, we plan on doing it this day, but the following days we may need to do it instead because weather bites us. But again, I just implore all of you to sign up for the text and email alerts. We can get the information out to you much more quickly and much more accurate, up-to-date information.
Yeah, Mark, if I could just add, typically, if it's a closure, like if there's going to be a ramp closure, besides the traffic alerts, we typically would say, if you're signed up for the text and emails, we would send a notice out the morning of the closure, which would typically happen at night, so that you're just reminded that that ramp would close, or 95 or whatever is going to close. You would get a reminder that that's going to close that night and the hours. And depending on, if it's a 95 closure, we would typically send another text when it's reopened the next morning. So like Mark said, signing up for the alerts is probably the most up-to-date information you can get.
And what is that? Where do you sign up again, Natalie?
95896improvements.com.
Thank you.
It's going to be a quiz. The traffic turning right on red from 896 south onto Old Baltimore Pike West tends to fill the breakdown lane well beyond the painted right lane marking. Is there any plan to address this? Do I have a volunteer from the panel?
Hello, this is Evan. So it sounds like, as Steve mentioned before, that we're widening 896 up to the OBP intersection. And correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, it even gets widened all the way down past Old Baltimore Pike. So that's the designer's method in order to reduce the traffic through that and get reduce congestion through that intersection.
Correct. I mean, that's what we're trying to do with that third lane, is to get our through traffic through. There still will be that, dedicated right turn lane. So when we do the widening, that right turn lane does continue to be there.
The next question, I'm not exactly sure what this one is getting at. I'll read it, but it's not really phrased in form of a question. How is congested traffic through Old Baltimore Pike, Phoenix Avenue, and Old Cooch's Bridge Road. And I don't know if it got cut off. If you have, Brian, if you make clarification, please provide that. I'm not exactly sure what it is we're looking for with that one.
Right, and Barry, just
yeah.
real quick to jump on that, and while we get some clarification, I do want to reiterate to folks too, again, that we are going to have some traffic monitoring out there throughout the duration of the contract, and you know, as something comes up, we can certainly adjust signal timings in the corridor. And I'm going to reiterate to Natalie and Mark Buckaloo's point earlier, please go to 896improvements.com. If you have any issues, there is a contact us portion on there, and please feel free to reach out if you see anything during construction as well.
Thank you, Brianna. The panel gets a bonus every time they say the website. Just kidding. No, nobody gets a bonus. With regard to the third southbound 896 widening, will there be a longer right turn lane for westbound Old Baltimore Pike? That seems to be a pinch point in the evening. Steve.
Yeah, so we did our traffic volume projections, so that right turn lane is longer than it is today. So it's sized for future traffic.
Great. Thanks, Steve. You've mentioned the walkway will tie into the existing trail system. Please inform where the existing trail system is that you've mentioned. Steve.
Yeah, I'm gonna just pull Google up on the screen real quick here.
Yep.
So our new trail system is gonna come down southbound, as I said. There'll be a new crossing across Old Baltimore Pike, and then the trail, section of the trail terminates here in what is, I guess, Old South College, which is now just a residential road. So when I say the new trail system, it connects to Old College Road, which is a residential low volume road. And then it would continue to the south with this trail that continues down through the next couple intersections.
Thank you very much, Steve. Good presentation. Thank you. I don't take any credit. Explain nighttime closures of 896. How can I get to 95 from Four Seasons? Mark Buckalow.
So depending on where on 896 the closure is, depends on which activity it is. But let's just say it's closed just on the other side of Old Baltimore Pike. You could take Old Baltimore Pike straight up to 273 to jump on 95, or you could take Route 40 down to Route 1 to jump on 95. That would probably be your fastest route.
Okay, thank you. The next one, for those of us who live north of 95, what alternate routes would you suggest so we can totally avoid the work area, especially to go north on 95?
So I'll take that one, Barry.
Thank you, Mark.
If you're living north of 95, your best route is going to be to take Route 4 to 273 to 95. I'm just going to be honest with you. I don't find that to be a great route for you either, because you're going to get through a lot of signals and congestion as you hit 273. I think you're just better off just taking one of the exit ramps to go northbound 95. We're not really restricting much there, except for the nighttime stuff. But I think that's probably your best route, is just stick with your normal route.
Great. Thank you, Mark. Where will the new flyover ramps be? 896 south to I-95 north, 95 south to 896 south. Thanks. Steve, maybe just pull up the proposed improvement slide and go over that again.
Sure. So the two, let me use my laser pointer. So the two flyover ramps that I'm talking about when I reference those, so coming southbound on 95, you'll get off at the exit to the right, and then this flyover ramp comes up over 896, over 95, up on Iron Hill, and then takes you southbound to 896. The other flyover ramp would be coming out of Newark, southbound on 896. You'll get off at this exit prior to the interchange, across Christina River, up and over 95, up onto Iron Hill, across 896, again across the Christina River, and then merge with northbound 995. And you can also see them here in the slide. So this is your southbound southbound 95 to southbound 896 flyover ramp. And then again, coming out of Newark, to go northbound on 95, you'll take this flyover ramp up and around and up to 95.
I got excited for a second. I thought it was going to be a bridge question. Um, what areas or roads around the region do you anticipate may be much busier as travelers try to avoid 95 and 896 during these few years? Steve.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to emphasize that, during, the travel times during the day, we're not going to restrict 95. We're not going to restrict 896. We're not going to restrict those 4 big ramps that I talked about. Those movements are too heavy to close during the day. We all expect that taking 72 down to single lane each direction is going to be the biggest disruption. So that's going to put more traffic on the surrounding roads. The Salem Church Road, it may put more traffic onto 896 as well, Old Baltimore Pike. So it's going to be those roads, different routes to get around the 72, congestion. But when we do have our detours in place at night, I will also want to say that, we're trying to catch traffic before it gets to the interchange. So what I say that is if, let's say we have northbound 896 closed. So when people are traveling on northbound 896, we're going to direct them at Route 40 to go over on Route 40, get on Route 1 and not, put them on the local roads closer to the interchange. But obviously there's going to have to be traffic directed that way, but we're trying to catch most of the traffic before it gets to the interchange and give people, a chance to divert to the larger roadways around here.
Thank you, Steve. Where will the staging area be for this project? And I think I'm going to need one of the construction folks to weigh in on this one.
Hi, this is Evan. So right now, there's a staging yard situated at Route 40 and 896. As the work progresses, the contractor does plan on setting up more staging areas, but they haven't figured those out yet. So again, right now, the staging yard that they're planning on using is at 40 and 896 at the southeast corner.
Thank you very much, Evan. Will there be project update virtual meetings during construction to provide progress updates or slippage should it arise? Brianna.
Hi, Barry. Yeah, so for this one, we are definitely looking to provide some progress updates and again to slippage updates on the project in general. Going to reiterate again that plug for the need to sign up for the website. We're going to try to get out all of the news, traffic alerts, if there's any delays, any of that through the 95896improvements.com. So we are looking to be very transparent about this project. If you need any information, please go to that website. If you have any questions that aren't on that website that you'd like to be answered during construction, please reach out to the contact us and somebody will get back to you.
Thank you, Brianna. How are you going to coordinate the lights on southbound 896 from Newark, specifically from Route 4 South? Do I have a volunteer? Steve, I saw your mute come off.
I can take that one. So as part of the project, when it's in construction, there's what we call a TMP, traffic management plan. So basically what it is anytime we have a detour, closure, anything out there, it's going to be monitored live in the field and then adjustments will be made. So it's going to constantly be monitored. The lights can be adjusted. It's going to be as we get into it and we see issues, then that's where we're going to look to make signal timing changes to try to flush through traffic where the congestion is. So yes, it'll be constantly monitored through the project.
It's in coordination with our Transportation Management Center.
Okay. The next one. Is there a need for 2 flyovers if the 95 southbound to 896 southbound is being eliminated? Steve.
Yes. So back when we did our alternatives analysis for this project, we had 3 alternatives. One of them was, that's why this was called the double flyover. There was a single flyover. didn't function anywhere near as well as the double flyover interchange. This one by far alleviated all the congestion at the interchange. So it is something we looked at. We looked at all kinds of different configurations, obviously, but a single flyover configuration one was that got carried pretty far through the project.
Steve, also, sorry, Barry, I know you're gonna jump to the next question, but to elaborate on that too, during the alternatives analysis phase, Steve, when we had that other alternative that had the single flyover, if you recall too, the geometry of the loop ramp that was needed to maintain operations had a significantly higher impact on Iron Hill Park. So by actually having the double flyover that we have today, we were actually able to stay within the operational right of way as well, and try to minimize impacts as much as possible.
Yeah, that's a good point, Brianna. It was the only alternative that we had that didn't impact all the, historic and environmental resources, Iron Hill Park, the Cooch's Bridge battlefield. This was the only one that stayed within our footprint. So yes, that's a really good point.
Great question there, and terrific answer, both Steve and Brianna. It's still unclear if Iron Hill Park hikers can access the walkway to Newark anywhere other than OBP 896 intersection. Brianna?
Yep, I can take that one. So we aren't tying in, to clarify, we are not tying into the Iron Hill Park, at any of the points closer to the interchange with our ramp. And Steve, you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I recall, I think that there's actually a fence that Iron Hill Park has on the outside perimeter of their right of way as well.
Correct. Yeah, there's a right-of-way fence up on Iron Hill that's out there that defines the right-of-way. Yep.
Right.
Okay. Thank you. So using West Chestnut Hill Road as a bypass route will make life difficult for the residents. Why not have the traffic go to Route 4 to Elkton Newark Road to Otts Chapel Road, etc.? Do I have a volunteer for this one?
I don't know if they're referencing the detour when we close 95, but the detour when we close 95 is to get them off at Elkton Road, take them traffic to Route 4, and that'll run them down 273.
Yeah, we may have misspoke earlier when someone asked about that, I think.
Okay, so
But
my
yeah,
apologies. My apologies.
The official detour is, like they say here, to go up Elkton Road to Route 4.
Yes.
And across.
Yep. Okay, great. Thank you guys for that correction. I work in Pennsylvania and live in Four Seasons. Would it be better to find an alternate route home once construction starts? Mark?
Mark, I was going to say that I think it just depends on where we are in construction.
Yes.
So for the most part, all the ramps will be open during the daytime when you're going, unless you work nighttime. So your best bet is probably just to go how you normally go, and just keep up to date on the traffic alerts to see if there's a localized period of time when maybe your normal route is impacted. But I don't think during the daytime you're going to see too much difference from what you see now.
Yeah, and Brianna, if they want to find out any updates about the project, where can they go?
Barry, I believe it's 95896improvements.com.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
And the last one that I have in the queue right now, and I want to say as we're going through this, if your question was you felt like it was skipped, we tried to group like questions together so that we didn't repeat them. How is the congestion going to be handled on OBP, Phoenix Avenue, and Cooch's Bridge Road during the project? And I think that was just a rephrasing of the earlier question. So that was some clarification. Thank you very much, Brian. Does anybody want to field that one?
I'm not sure if we're getting to the crux of the question, but if there's existing congestion on Old Baltimore Pike now, I don't know that there's anything specific that this project's doing to help alleviate that, other than trying to manage the timing of the signals at the 896, 95, or excuse me, OBP 896 intersections to flush traffic as fast as possible through there. But there's no specific improvements being made to Old Baltimore Pike as part of this project.
Okay. Thank you very much, Natalie.
Mhm.
And that brings us to the end of our questions from this. We want to thank you for participating in the virtual public information meeting. I don't believe this has been mentioned before, but if you have any questions, and please visit 896improvements.com for more information on the project and to sign up for email and text alerts during construction. Also, if you have a question that you felt like either we missed the point on it, answering it, or you thought of it later, you can submit questions to, what is the email address again, Steve?
That would be info@896improvements.com.
Yeah. So hopefully this has been informative for you. I want to thank everyone who attended. I want to thank the panelists for the presenters and the question and answer period. And with that,
Hey, Barry, it looks like there's one more question.
we
that
got
came in.
one. We got another question. Okay. There is a culvert replacement project at Cooch's Bridge Road in the planning stage. Will those overlap?
I think Evan can probably answer that one.
I have some information on it too, if you want me to take it.
Yeah, why don't you start out, Barry?
Okay. My guess is that they would not overlap based on where we're at in the development of that project. We're still in the very early phases, going through the NEPA process and the 106 process. So given that this is started as an 800-day calendar, my guess is that they would not overlap.
Unless they're talking about at the south end of Old Cooch's Bridge Road, there's a developer project that is replacing a culvert
Oh, okay.
all the way at the south end, and that section of Old Cooch's Bridge Road is closed and detoured right now for that developer work.
Yeah, this said in the planning stage, so I'm assuming it is talking about the
Yeah.
segment between 896 and 72. So-
Okay.
Okay, I think that is it then. Again, thank you guys very much for participating. With that, we're going to sign off. This presentation will be available on the website. Have a nice evening.